Power never stays clean in a world built on lies. Every smile hides a threat, every hero hides a weapon, and every decision is one step closer to collapse. In Episode 7 of The Boys Season 5, the game doesn't just change, it starts breaking from the inside. Alliances crack, secrets rise to the surface, and the line between savior and monster disappears completely. What looks like control is actually chaos waiting for the right moment to explode. Everything in this episode feels like it's holding its breath. Homelander's grip on power looks stronger than ever on the surface, but underneath, it's unstable. The problem with absolute control is simple. It only works until fear stops working. And in this episode, fear starts losing its power. The political structure around him is no longer just obeying, it's calculating. People close to him are no longer thinking about loyalty, they are thinking about survival. That shift is dangerous, because survival always creates betrayal. Even those who once supported him begin to quietly question what comes after Homelander, not if he falls, but when. Meanwhile, the resistance side is far from united. The biggest weakness is not the enemy, it's trust. Every plan has too many moving parts, and too many people who are not fully honest with each other. That kind of tension always leads to one thing: collapse or sacrifice. And in The Boys, sacrifice is never clean. Butcher's mindset becomes even more extreme in this episode. He is no longer thinking in terms of victory. He is thinking in terms of finality. If Homelander is the storm, Butcher is now acting like someone willing to burn everything just to stop the rain. That makes him dangerous to everyone, not just the enemy. Even his own team can feel it. There is a growing sense that if the final choice comes, he will not hesitate to cross lines others cannot. At the same time, Ryan's position continues to be the emotional fault line of the entire story. He is not just a character anymore, he is leverage. Whoever influences him controls the future. And in this episode, that pressure becomes even more obvious. Every side wants him, not because of love, but because of what he represents. The next version of power. Across the board, the episode quietly builds one central idea: no one is in control anymore. Not Homelander, not Butcher, not even the organizations behind them. Everyone is reacting instead of leading. That is usually the moment right before something irreversible happens. And just when it feels like things might stabilize, the cracks deepen again. A key betrayal, subtle, not loud, shifts the balance of trust inside the system. It doesn't look like much at first, but in a story like this, small cracks are what bring down entire structures. The episode closes this section of tension with one clear feeling: something massive is being prepared in the background, and everyone is already too deep to stop it. The second half of the episode stops pretending things are stable. Whatever control existed before is now clearly an illusion. Every character is now operating under pressure, and pressure in The Boys always creates one thing: mistakes that cannot be undone. Homelander's world begins to feel less like a kingdom and more like a cage he built himself. The more he tries to dominate everything around him, the more unpredictable the reactions become. People around him are no longer responding with fear alone. There is hesitation now. That hesitation is dangerous because it signals the beginning of resistance from within. Even his closest circle starts to act like they are preparing for a future without him, and that is something Homelander cannot tolerate for long. At the same time, Butcher's path becomes even more unstable. His decisions are no longer tactical, they are emotional disguised as strategy. He convinces himself that every step is necessary, but the truth is simpler. He is running out of limits. In this episode, that mindset pushes him closer to choices that would permanently damage whatever remains of his humanity. And the most unsettling part is that he knows it. The resistance side fractures further. Not in a loud explosion, but in quiet disagreements that slowly turn into separate agendas. Some want to end the fight before it destroys them completely. Others believe stopping now would mean everything was pointless. That conflict creates hesitation at the worst possible time, because hesitation in this world equals death. Then comes the deeper layer, the connection to Gen V. This episode makes it clearer that what happened at Godalkin was not an isolated event. It was a foundation. The experiments, the merging abilities, and the unstable supes are not side effects anymore. They are part of a larger system being built in the background. A system that is starting to influence the main battlefield. Characters from Gen V begin to feel less like supporting pieces and more like key variables in a much bigger equation. Their abilities are not just powerful, they are unpredictable in ways that even the original soup structure cannot fully control. That unpredictability becomes important because it introduces a new kind of threat, power that does not follow rules. This is where the episode quietly shifts the stakes. It is no longer just about defeating Homelander or surviving Butcher's obsession. It is about what comes after both of them. The Gen V connection suggests a future where power is no longer centralized. Instead, it spreads, mutates, and evolves without control. That idea is far more terrifying than any single villain. By the end of the section, every faction realizes the same truth in different ways. The war is no longer two-sided. It is becoming multi-layered, unstable, and impossible to predict. And once a system reaches that stage, it does not return to balance, it accelerates toward collapse. By the final stretch of Episode 7, everything starts moving toward one unavoidable direction, collapse disguised as destiny. No matter what each character believes they are doing, the outcome is pulling them toward a single moment where control will no longer matter. Homelander reaches a point where his authority no longer feels absolute. It still looks powerful from the outside, but internally it is becoming reactive. That is the key shift in this episode. He is no longer shaping events, he is responding to them. And for someone like him, that is a slow loss of identity. The idea of being untouchable starts to feel less like reality and more like propaganda he has to keep proving. This pressure forces him closer to something dangerous, a public or symbolic move meant to reassert dominance. Not just violence, but meaning. Homelander doesn't just want control anymore. He wants worship. And when power shifts from control to worship, it becomes unstable because belief is never permanent. Butcher, on the other hand, is moving in the opposite direction emotionally, but arriving at the same kind of extreme. His decisions become sharper, colder, and more irreversible. In this episode, he crosses another invisible line. Not because he is confident, but because he believes hesitation is the only real failure left. That mindset makes him unpredictable even to his own allies. The scariest part is not what he might do to the enemy, but what he is willing to justify in order to win. Ryan continues to sit at the center of everything without fully realizing it. His existence is no longer just emotional weight, it is strategic gravity. Every major force in the story is slowly being pulled toward him. But the episode makes one thing clear. Whoever tries to shape him too aggressively will eventually lose control of him. He is becoming the most unstable form of power in the entire narrative. The Gen V connection now fully locks into place in this section of the story. What was once background influence is now active pressure on the main timeline. The emergence of unpredictable abilities and experimental outcomes signals a shift in the entire soup ecosystem. Power is no longer elite and contained. It is spreading into uncontrolled forms that even institutions cannot predict or regulate. This is where the real fear of the episode takes shape. It is not just about Homelander or Butcher anymore. It is about what kind of world is forming underneath them. A world where power cannot be centralized, controlled, or even fully understood. And in that kind of world, leadership doesn't survive. It mutates or collapses. The final moments of the episode feel like standing in front of a sealed explosion. Every character is positioned, every decision has already been made emotionally, and all that remains is the trigger. The sense of inevitability is overwhelming. Not because the outcome is visible, but because every possible path now leads to damage. And that is the final truth of Episode 7. Nobody is winning anymore. They are all just choosing how they lose and what they destroy on the way down. Episode 7 doesn't end like a normal chapter. It ends like a warning. Every storyline now feels like it is one step away from irreversible damage. Homelander's control is no longer guaranteed. Butcher's restraint is completely gone, and the resistance is holding together only because there is no time left to fall apart properly. The most important shift in this episode is not a fight or a reveal. It is the realization that the system itself is breaking. Power in this world is no longer stable enough to be held by one person or one ideology. It is spreading, mutating, and reacting in ways no one fully understands. That is where the real danger begins. Homelander's next move will not just be about dominance. It will be about survival of his image. He cannot afford to look uncertain because the moment he does, everything he built starts to weaken. That makes his next step unpredictable and extremely dangerous for everyone around him. Butcher is heading toward the opposite extreme. Where Homelander is trying to maintain an image, Butcher is abandoning his completely. That contrast is what pushes both of them toward a collision that now feels unavoidable. There is no middle ground left between them. Only escalation. And sitting underneath all of this is the Gen V influence, quietly reshaping what power even means in this universe. The emergence of unstable abilities and experimental outcomes suggests that the next stage of this world is not controlled by heroes or villains, but by evolution itself. And evolution does not care who survives. By the time episode 8 arrives, the question is no longer who will win. The question is what will be left after they all try. Because at this point, the story is not building toward a resolution. It is building toward impact.